All right, so I forgot how I start this thing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. This is Marv Fikes Jr. Welcome to Become the Podcast. How do you become anything? You dream, you declare, you commit, and success is your next breath. So what you don't know is I was already recording with my good friend Jay Vick, my guest for this podcast for 6 minutes before I realized that the mic wasn't on. So we got some words in, got some reps in, and so hopefully we'll be even better than we were the last time. Even though you won't hear what we did before, but you'll hear this goodness because we've been practicing, I guess. But I got my good friend Jay Vick here, who owns Xplosive Performance Academy. It's a performance training facility where they work on athleticism, helping guys become faster, stronger, more explosive, quicker. And I wanted to. First of all, he's a good friend of mine. Number one. Number two, I've always been impressed with. I'm impressed with anybody who has the courage to take a leap of faith and to live a life of purpose and to do some, take some calculated risks and do what it is they love. I'm impressed by anybody who does that, but it's even more impressive when you know the behind the scenes story, right? So there's one thing where you can see the storefront and you see everything that's going on inside, and you can be impressed by that. But it's another thing when you can actually go into the store and go into the back, right? And you know the background story, you know the challenges, you know the adversity, you know the fears and the limitations, and you see this person working through all those things. That's when the story becomes really, really captivating and just a beautiful struggle, so to speak. So I got my good friend Jay Vick here, and Jay Vick, let me also talk to you about this where we are. We're at Jay Vick's house. He's got dogs. They're in the basement. So if you hear dogs in the background, muffled, so big, that's what that is. We also have little John, who's upstairs, sleep, right? Well, he's supposed to be asleep. He's supposed to be asleep. So you may hear a child crying in the background, and so there's that. And then Simon's here. He's got plastic in his hand, and so that at any given time, plastic may crash, and so you have all these noises that may take place, and so that's what's going on. So with all that being said, Coach Jay Vick, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Marv. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. So we feel silly acting like we haven't already done this, right? So we'll just get straight to the action. I met Jay Vick at Xplosive Sports Performances, and that's where I worked after I quit Concordia University. And so Xplosive Sports Performance is a performance training facility where we helped to develop athleticism. And so a lot of really cool people there, a lot of backgrounds, a lot of diversity there. All these coaches were certified personal trainers, and I wasn't. But I was lucky enough to kind of befriend the owner or the manager or the director, and I was able to kind of get into this cool place. And that's where I met Jay Vick, and he was funny and goofy, and so was I. So we made a lot of sense to one another. So what I want to do, Jay Vick, as I've said this before, I want to hear about what took place after you left Velocity. So start that whole story over again.
All right. So before I actually left Velocity, ownership ended up changing.
Yes.
So it ended up changing to Dynamic Athlete Performance.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
First year was pretty good there. Second year kind of butted heads with the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that it was time to move on and try to do my own thing and
mm-hmm.
see where that was going to bring me.
Yeah.
See where it was going to take me. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty crazy situation, but that was also, it was a week after my daughter was born.
Yep.
It was a month after we bought our house.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a wife.
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, I ended up leaving there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of bouncing all over the place. I was really driving all around Eastern Michigan, training people. I was training a couple guys down in Ann Arbor Pioneers basement, I was going up to Detroit Catholic Central, training some guys up there. I was driving over to the east side of Detroit, training Detroit Crockett's football team.
Sure, I remember that.
That was crazy, but it was cool though.
Yeah.
It was definitely different for me, but man, I was all over the place.
Well, let me stop you right there. And I again, this being the second time, but I always like to know, outside of the passion, outside of the purpose, what else is going on? So you're starting a family, you're married, you're starting a family in terms of you're having children, and then on top of that, you just bought a house or you just got into your house. And I think sometimes when people hear people's stories, they don't always. They just get the passion part. They just get the purpose part. They just get that. Oh, I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be on this stage. I'm supposed to be on this platform. I'm supposed to be, cooking. Cooking this food, and this is the restaurant that I was supposed to have. But there's all these other challenges that are taking place, and so much pressure that is involved that sometimes people listening to the story, they don't get a chance to hear all the different pressures that are taking place. So I'm assuming not only is your wife looking at you like you're crazy, but then I'm pretty sure your parents are probably looking at you like you're kind of crazy, and then her parents are probably looking at you like you're kind of crazy, because this might not be the time to take a risk. You know what I'm saying? There's this support, like, yeah, we're supporting you because we know that we should, but at the same time, everybody doesn't understand calculated risks. And they don't understand, especially when you start doing stuff on your own, this notion of we're going to suffer so that I can fulfill my purpose doesn't always translate for people who have a 9-to-5 and a salary job, and they go to work every day, and the check is there on Thursday or the 1st and the 15th. And so when your money's coming all over the place, it doesn't necessarily make sense to everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I had full support, honestly, like from Megan, my wife. Full support there from her. My mother-in-law supported me. She didn't necessarily say I was crazy. She may have thought it, but she never said it.
Sure.
And I kind of say the same thing with my parents too. They probably didn't think it was a good idea, but they never verbalized it. So, it was crazy, man. It was a risk. It for sure was a risk. I truly had to hustle.
Yeah,
I truly had to hustle. So, I was doing whatever I could. That's really when I started reaching out to people on Twitter. Like, I was following them. If they followed me back, I'd say, "Hey, you interested in coming in to train?" type thing. Like, it was pure hustle.
Yeah,
for sure, pure hustle. So, yeah, it's even kind of hard to say that it was a calculated risk. It was probably an uncalculated risk that was kind of more reactive than proactive.
Sure.
But the reason I left was a pretty good reason. So.
Yeah, and sometimes you might be in a situation that's comfortable or predictable, but things fall apart, disagreements are created, and they almost have to happen. Because if everything is good, if everything is really, really good, you got a great owner. Let's say if Mo was still there. If Mo was still there, you might still be there. Or maybe this part of your life is delayed. Because if you're around good people, but you know that the ceiling is low in terms of how far you can move up, but you're dealing with good people and a good manager and good co-workers and all that other stuff, that could be just enough to kind of slow down your process or your maturation process. But the second that you're dealing with weird personalities and the policies and the procedure and the infrastructure, all that stuff becomes a little weird. Yep. It then forces you to ask the question, like, do I want to work here? Or I think I'm actually smarter than this dude. Yep. I'm smarter than this chick. Should I be doing this myself? Like, I think I can do it better. And sometimes you got to be around some idiots to help you understand that, yeah, you are actually smarter than this person. Why don't you just do it yourself? Or at least challenge yourself to say, I think I can do a better job. Because that's all you always hear that. You think you can do a better job than me? Like, yeah. Well, let me see. All right, cool. And so here we are. So now you leave Velocity, you're hustling all over the place, and then you come across some place that's somewhat predictable, gives you some predictability, and that's in Livonia.
Yep. There's a little building in Livonia. It's not there anymore. Well, the building's still there, but the business is no longer there. But it was like a basketball court. I think the former owner was he played in Europe for a few years, and then he ended up throwing down some turf and he had some weights.
Okay.
So it was a small area, but I mean, it got the job done at the time, especially when I was running all over the place. But yeah, I was there for a little bit, and I actually got connected with another guy. Well, actually, I saw something about Hype Athletics. I was friends with Jimmy King on Facebook, the Fab Five Jimmy King.
Sure. And
he posted something about Hype Athletics, and I was like, what is this? So I started looking into it a little bit, and I ended up messaging Jimmy, and I was like, hey, do you guys have any type of sports performance stuff going on there? If not, let me know.
Yeah.
And I mean, he responded right away, told me, no, they don't have anything, but I can connect you with the right guy. So
sure.
He ended up connecting me with Justin Sassante, who was also a Detroit Catholic Central grad. And I was up training Dave Moss, who played in the NHL for like 9-10 years, and bumped into Justin there, and we kind of hit it off, and I ended up coming on at Hype I was a contracted trainer there for like 3 years.
Were you there at the beginning or a little bit after the beginning?
I was right there at the beginning.
Wow.
So like I was I was still helping build a little bit. I was in those premature, not even open yet stages.
Sure.
So.
Okay. So now you're there at Velocity Sports Performance. No, I'm sorry. You're there at Hype doing performance training.
Yep.
You're getting really, really high-end talent.
Yep.
I remember, so to connect me to it, I left Velocity Sports Performance before you did. I started doing my basketball training, and I was just like you, all over the place. Anybody who wants to train, anybody who's got a gym, I'll do business with you. And so you told me about Velocity Sports Performance, and I don't know how many times you told me before. I was like, Hype. I don't know how many times you told me about Hype, but eventually I ended up at Hype, and by the time I got to Hype, I would see these 6'7", 6'8", just stud football players walking through there. And so you're at Hype, you're doing well, especially from a visual standpoint. Now, I don't know anything about the money, I don't know anything about that, but from a visual standpoint, all I know is this guy is bringing in top tier talent. And so tell me about, leaving Hype.
So, Hype was a great opportunity for me. It's really kind of what kicked off my business.
Sure.
I was hustling.
Yeah.
Still, I was hustling. Man, I had, like you said, I had some studs up there. Like, I have guys that are in the NFL now, or guys that are about to be drafted that are coming up there.
Sure.
One guy was a second-round pick last year. High school All-Americans, Army All-Americans, top-tier high school guys.
Yeah.
So, there was some good things going on there. But my big issue and the reason I left there is honestly because I couldn't get turf.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I couldn't get turf. And again, a little bit of butting head type thing.
Sure.
So I had Craig Cotter from the batter's box reach out to me. And when he had a decent little really a box with some turf, like 25, 30 yards of turf, probably 30 yards wide, 30 yards deep, and a little weight area. And he reached out to me, and he wanted me to come over, check out the space, and we hit it off, and I just decided, it was actually 3 years ago now, like this time 3 years ago, that that's when Xplosive Performance Academy had started. And I put together a sole proprietorship months before, like in November. Yeah. And just because it was at the same time, I was still kind of, I had goals. I didn't really, didn't want to be a contractor trainer forever.
Sure.
I wanted to be able to truly build my own business and have some people that I could mentor and bring under me and learn what I do and grow my own business. So,
yeah.
I mean, I ended up going off and starting Xplosive then.
So talk to me about the process of getting your own building.
So when I was at the batter's box, it was just a sublease there. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty simple, actually, a lot more simple than what it really is to get a sublease. But that didn't take much. But when it came to actually opening my location in Southfield, that was work.
Okay.
There was a lot involved with that in terms of funding.
Yeah.
Man, I was told no by a lot of people that had some money about investing. Yeah. People that didn't think we could make money, but I mean, I kept pushing on no matter what anybody said. So, yeah. I mean, it was. I finally ended up getting some money. I ended up getting some money to through a financing company. Mm-hmm. So I financed equipment. We had a little bit of money, so I could buy some turf. Mm-hmm. We had to throw down a pretty big down payment for the facility, and I actually at one point I thought I was going to lose the facility that I'm at now in terms of another company coming in late to try to get the spot. Yeah. So I ended up getting it. I ended up writing a personal letter to the landlord, and they accepted my offer. And
sure.
And it's I guess we've gone from there. It's crazy, but
yeah. So now, we can move past that. So the moral of the story is there's so many roadblocks along the way, and I did a speaking thing for U of M, and I said that I did with the nurses, and my main thing was everybody's getting their butt kicked. Everybody's getting their butt kicked, but the only people who look like they're not getting their butt kicked are the people who are able to take adversity and understand it. They're able to process it as a mechanism that is working to enhance them. Mm-hmm. So there's two kinds of people getting their butt kicked. This person's getting their butt kicked and they're complaining about it, and this person's getting their butt kicked and they're trying to understand why. Why is my butt getting kicked right now? What am I supposed to learn? So can you talk about some of the challenges and how you talk about some of the challenges, or talk about just some of the moments in which you realize, like, I've come too far. I've been through too much. Those moments of inspiration where you realize, no, I got to figure this thing out. I know I'm getting my butt kicked, but I got to figure this thing out.
Man, it's constant, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I always feel that, I mean, it's ups. There's ups and downs, and as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you've seen it. Mm-hmm. I've seen many people post it, but the picture of the iceberg, where above the water it shows success, and then underneath the water it shows all types of different roadblocks that there were, and I mean it couldn't be more true. Mm-hmm. There are definitely way more bumps in the road than there have been successes. Yeah. But I mean, it's all about how you react to that and how you recover from it. That helps you take yourself to that next level. Mm-hmm. But you know, when it comes to some of the roadblocks, like, at times it can be easy to become complacent. Mm-hmm. You might have a little bit of success. You have a group of athletes that end their season, and then we get a bunch of them to come in and be like, okay, I'm good. Like, typically every November, December, January, those are our best months because we get all of our football players in, we have baseball players in. Mm-hmm. But then when March hits, I mean, it's a whole different story because a lot of football players run track, and then baseball season starts. So we're feeling good in November, December, January, and typically February as well. Then March hits and we're like, damn, like where's everybody at?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been better this year than it has in the past. But I mean, it's easy to get complacent because there's so much that you have to do to make sure that you are staying on top of not only your game, but your business game as well.
I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to come back to staying on top of your game. I want to go back, not even go back, but I want to talk about something that we talked about Saturday when I came over here and we were just hanging out. You talked about this moment in which you stop focusing on everybody else and you start focusing on yourself. And I know that as a speaker, as a basketball trainer, you want to know what the field is doing, right? So you're looking at Facebook, you're looking at Instagram, you're looking at YouTube, you're looking at social media, and you're trying to figure out what is everybody doing. And then you start saying, oh, wait, I gotta add that to my game. I got to add this to my game. I got to add that to my game. And before long, you've kind of, to some degree, gotten away from your foundation because you're adding on all these things that you think is potentially leaving you behind. And then you come across this revelation that, wow, I don't need to focus on anybody else but myself. And so you talked about being at velocity, being at height, and that moment where you realize, why am I focusing on these people? I got big-time Division I athletes, NFL prospects in my presence. Why do I care? Talk about that aha moment and how it impacted how you moved on from height to opening up your own facility.
Man, honestly, like I let that kind of get to me for a while. Like it was probably it went on past hype. Like even though I had my own facility, I had some great athletes coming through. Like I was stuck on that. Like I cared. I guess I can't say I cared more, but I cared about these guys going to other facilities. Yeah. That I knew I could help. Yeah. That I knew I was going to make a difference for. I cared more about that than I did about what was going on in my own building. I still cared about what was going on in my own building. Yes. But it was almost like I was trying to chase the next person instead of truly focusing on the people that are already there. Like, it hit me at one point. Like, I'd say it probably hit me when I started really taking my mastermind group serious, and all these other successful trainers talking about member retention. And I'm like, well, what the hell's member retention? Well, then I realized like what member retention is, and truly caring about the people inside of you. Because of my business being the way that it is, word of mouth is the best referral source. So how am I going to get better word of mouth, better referrals? By taking care of my own clients, right? So I'd say probably talking to people and listening to them talk about member retention and referrals being their number one generator for new members. So it just made sense. But then at the same time, like I was so worried about people leaving and going somewhere else because it was something different. That's when I kind of forgot, like, if I just take care of these guys that are already here, treat them like kings and queens per se. Then, I mean, more than likely I'm going to get tenfold back.
That's a good segue into, you mentioned your mastermind group. I know you have a mentor. I know you have a mentor that you got to go out of the state to see this dude? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I know. So this is really, really intense. And I was going to ask you, when we talk about complacency, what things have you done to negate complacency? And I think one of the things has been this mastermind group. So I would assume that your mastermind group are maybe a group of people, and then is that group separate from your mentor, or is your mentor a part of that mastermind group? Talk about your mastermind group, the mentor, and all the things that you've done as it relates to those two entities to help you negate this idea of complacency?
So my mentor, he runs that mastermind group. We have meetings, 3 meetings a year. 2 of them are typically in Kentucky, which is where he's from. Well, that's where he lives. And then one of them he holds down in Orlando, which I haven't been able to make any in Orlando. But so the group, when we get together, it's literally a mastermind meeting where my mentor and then I could say another one of my mentors, they talk about things that can help push the business forward. Yeah. What's working well, what's not working anymore, what we have to do to truly stand out, to be the top 2%.
Yep.
Top 2%. So my mentor, there's also, we get a yearly meeting with him. If we have to hop on any calls, we can just set up a call with him, and I think it's a weekly call or monthly call or something like that. And then he also does some online meetings as well. We'll sit and he'll talk or we'll have conversation.
Yeah, I think it's something that gets lost when you want to do something and you become so driven and you become so focused on yourself, right? So you go from focusing on everyone else and then it hits you the necessity to really focus in on yourself. Then you sometimes can lose the perspective on the necessity to still add people to the process, right? So at some point you need some help. At some point you need somebody who's smarter than you. At some point you need somebody who's going through what you're going through. At some point you need people to bounce ideas off of. And that's where the selection becomes critical. You got to make sure that I talk about mastermind groups, and I talk about mastermind groups have to do 4 things. And this is just my opinion. They have to hold you accountable. They have to challenge you. They have to encourage you, and they have to be honest with you. So there's accountability. Make sure I'm doing everything that I said I would, or everything I need to do in order to reach my goal. Challenge me. Make sure that I'm being pushed. So when I try to get complacent, make sure you push me so that I'm always raising the stakes. I'm always looking to go higher. Encourage me. At some point, you need somebody to say, listen, bro, it ain't that bad. Or you need somebody to say, you got it. Like sometimes you need a good old-fashioned, like, please don't beat me down with all the things that I did wrong. Please tell me that I'm actually pretty dope. I need that every now and then. And then the flip side of that, now be honest with me. Be honest with me and tell me that I suck every now and then. So you got to have that dichotomy. But I feel like if you have a mastermind group, they better be doing all 4 of those things, because if they're just doing, all 3 and not the other one, that's not good enough. And at some point, not having the accountability piece or the challenge piece or whatever the case may be, you're going to let that person down. So you better be all 4 of those things simultaneously, or else that person doesn't get what they need. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have those people in your life to help you out. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the challenges of the industry, because obviously as a trainer, as a performance coach, you're in an area that can be swayed by the sexy. And so we were talking Saturday and you were like, Marv, strength is really simple, right? Yeah. But if I go on Instagram and I see this dude with his shirt off and he's doing the rope swings, and he's combining the rope swings with push-up jacks, and he's doing the rope swing in the air while he's, hitting the rope. Like, you might think, or somebody might think, wow, when I go to my gym, I don't do any of that. Yep. So if I don't do any of that and this guy's on Instagram and he's doing it, then either I got to ask my trainer, why aren't we doing push-up, explosive push-up, rope swings, whatever, or I got to go find somebody who's doing that. So talk to me about just the challenges of, or just the realities of, like, what I'm doing or what you're doing versus what you have to fight against in terms of helping other people, helping your clients understand like what you see on social media may not be as effective as you think.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to kind of go in two directions here.
Sure. Knock yourself out.
I mean, social media is exactly that. It's social media. It's for entertainment purposes, really, and to push your message across as well.
Sure.
It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I mean, that's truly that social media is how I built my business.
Yeah.
But the bad thing is that part where you're going to see this sexy exercise that somebody's doing that I know as somebody that's been in this industry for 13 years doesn't translate to any success in any sport.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, there are fad diets. There are things that you see on Facebook every single day that just they don't make any sense, but people believe it because it's on Facebook, because they read it. But
yeah,
I'd say probably the toughest part of that is teaching our clientele, our athletes, the necessities, the basics that they need.
Yeah.
The more simple things that they need to get the results.
Yeah.
And those results are more about the program and being consistent with the program than having a specific exercise.
Yeah.
Per se. So like, man, we could have a 12-week program with push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and lunges and like leg curls. And a lot of people, especially if they haven't worked out before, are going to see a huge difference if they're consistent for those 12 weeks, rather than just throwing in this crazy exercise every once in a while. And they might do it here and there. And I mean, the consistency thing is what matters, and not the sexiness. But I mean, like we talked about with my program, like it's extremely basic. Like we have a vertical press exercise, or I'm sorry, horizontal press, horizontal pull, vertical press, vertical pull, and then a couple what we call accessory exercises. So like wrist curls, neck for football players. So very, very basic stuff when you break it down, and it's been successful.
But you do a thorough evaluation of the athlete. That's the other part of it, that it can be, and I think this is true on just about in terms of any process. If we are heavily invested in the front end of the process, then the back of the end becomes a lot more efficient. So because your evaluation is so thorough, it makes it easy to now come up with a very simplistic but effective, highly effective process on the back end, because we did our homework at the beginning. But if you just jump into a workout program and then kids start getting, or people start getting injuries or start feeling pain and aches that don't leave, that aren't just a product of muscle soreness or whatever throughout the workout, now you have to adjust the workout during the middle of it. It's because we didn't really figure out where the athlete was strong, where they were weak, where they needed work, where they were tight, so on and so forth at the beginning. So the only reason why you're able to do something so simplistic that works on the front end is because you do all your homework on the back end, is because you do all your homework on the front end.
Yep, absolutely.
So how do you go about educating your clients about the sexy versus the effective? Because I know you don't badmouth people, you don't dog people. That's just not your style. So how do you deal with this person kind of questioning or bringing to your attention this guy or this girl who's doing the sexy exercise, or has a sexy workout program, or has a program that's generating or what's the word, attracting other high level athletes? How do you keep them from jumping ship?
Well, I think the biggest thing is kind of going back to that member retention thing, where we're showing showing the athletes that we actually care, or showing the clients that we actually care about them. It's a little bit newer for us, but what we've done, so we've done our initial evaluation, which is our success session, which we retest every 12 weeks. So if you're in a 6-month program, you're going to be tested 3 times. If you're in a 12-month program, you're going to be tested 5 times. And then we also do strategy sessions as well, which is just a little 15-minute meeting to kind of see where they're at with everything, see if they need help with anything, and then making sure that we are staying connected with them. If they miss a day, I'll shoot them a text, be like, hey, where were you today? Yeah. Or if it was somebody that just started a program and they haven't lifted, they haven't worked out in months, I'll shoot them a text that next morning to see how they're feeling. So, truly showing them how we care, that we care about them, and I think that's one of the biggest difference makers moving forward in business is showing that we care, and these basics are going to get them results.
Now, what do you do to keep yourself up to speed? You know, in terms of keeping yourself not necessarily relevant, but keeping yourself aware of the latest trends and exercise science, not to be sexy, but to just be relevant and to be current.
I mean, I read books. Honestly, lately I focus more on the business stuff than the training stuff, even though I'm still training.
Sure.
But, I mean, it's still. This is the good part about social media. I mean, you can get great information everywhere. I'm friends with some of the best strength coaches in the world on Facebook, and I'd say another one of my mentors when it comes to sports performance. I mean, if I have a question about something, I'll just shoot him a little direct message on Twitter and ask him a question about it, and he'll get back to me. If he's busy, he'll get back to me as soon as he's done. So, I mean, reading information. I mean, this world's full of information. So, yeah. I mean, people, it's accessible, easily accessible.
Yeah, you make it sound kind of easy, but I know that we both know that it's incredibly difficult.
I'd say it's simple.
Yeah,
but it's simple.
And you get up at what time do you get up? What time does your day start?
5:45.
And what are you doing at 5:45?
Take the dogs out first.
Yeah.
And then I grab like a green drink, a green smoothie, you can say. And then I'll meditate for like 10 minutes in the morning, and then I'm reading for 45 minutes to an hour, and then after I'm done reading, I'll write a daily email to my email list. So,
have you incorporated any meditation into your business? Have you incorporated any business into Xplosive Performance Academy?
Not yet. That is an idea to moving forward, but not yet.
Do you have space for a meditation room?
We have a room, but when it's loud, it's pretty loud in the entire building.
Yeah.
So, I guess it would kind of depend on the group. Like if we had some pro guys in the morning, we could definitely do it. But in the evening, probably not.
Are you confident enough to tell these guys, to tell you, let's say after going into the NFL Combine, are you confident to say a part of our curriculum will be meditation before we work out?
Absolutely.
So that's probably...
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think if now this idea of mindfulness, this idea of psychology and how it impacts ability, I think this is a very good time to incorporate that, because I think although people shy away from it, I think because if they knew how just simple it was, or how many different, like prayer could be meditation, and then there's actual meditation, and then there's some other, and everybody's got their own little thing that you're trying to achieve when you're when you're meditating. Some people like to think about nothing. Some people like to again, maybe pray. Some people like to focus on something. Some people like to visualize things. I personally, when I meditate, I like to, and for whatever reason, it's black background, and I want to concentrate on every breath. And so every breath that comes in, there's like this purple mist. For whatever reason, it goes in, it comes out, and my goal is to focus in on my breath for as long as I'm meditating. And I know that my brain's going to go crazy. I know that thoughts are going to come in that probably shouldn't come in, but my goal is to reduce the frequency and the time that those other thoughts come in, and then just get back to focusing on my breath. So I'm focusing more on me versus everything else. Yeah. But all depending on the day and all depending on the era of my life, that might be easier or not, whatever the case may be. Yep. But I think this is a great time to incorporate something like that or talk to people about that, because I think they buy into it a lot easier because they realize that it's helpful. Yeah. It's just a matter of giving people a practice that makes sense to them.
And I mean, just like all the information, this is pretty accessible as well. I mean, I use an app on my phone, Headspace.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I mean, you get like 10 free sessions of it, and then you pay either a monthly fee or an annual fee, or you can pay a lifetime fee. Yeah. Just real simple to follow, has a little instruction. And
I forgot who told me about that. Somebody told me about that, and I was like, no, I got my own thing. I just do my own. I already have I do something that works for me, and it's as simple as that. Like, it works for me, and it helps me to remember what I got to do throughout the day, and it helps me to perform on what I think is a pretty good level. That's it, man. That's pretty good. You did well. Not that I'm some pro, anything like that, but you did well, man. You did well. But it's a really cool. I think there's so many parts of your story that could be a podcast within itself, because even talking about the details of starting your own business and then having a family, and the challenges in the house. Now, how do you figuring out the business, this figuring out your house. Okay, I got kids. Okay, I got one kid. Okay, now I got two kids. I got what? And figuring that out. That in itself is its own podcast. How do you not bring that stuff home and that make into a point it becomes toxic? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that's been tough. That's been a challenge the whole time. Really. Sure. And if I could go back, like, there are some things that I would have done different. Sure. But I think the biggest thing now that I understand is that I need to be more proactive with everything and less reactive. If I'm proactive, I know exactly what's supposed to be coming up. Is it always going to work out? Yeah. No, not necessarily. But if it doesn't work out, then we have to course correct and we have to make a change. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've learned. I've gone crazy on reading books lately. Last probably 3-4 months. Yeah. Just gone crazy on reading books, and I think the biggest thing is that I've learned reading these books is the balance. Sure. Like, having the balance between business, between mindfulness, between family, and then myself. Sure. So.
All right, well, let me end this one, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do next. Greatness lives on the edge of death. Oh, thank you to my good guests. I got to get better at that stuff. Thank you to my good guest, my good friend Jay Vick. Thank you for sharing your story, and hopefully, man,
thank you.
We can continue just keep rocking and rolling and talking about this success stuff and how it impacts not only the business but also family. But greatness lives on the edge of death. I'm not afraid to die. I will fight for my dreams. I will celebrate my dreams, and I will die for my dreams. Thoughts are things, and everything starts off as a thought first and springs from a place of mindfulness and clarity. I'll be talking to you soon. Take care.